me okay?
Yeah,
Great.
how's it going?
Going well. How about yourself?
Good.
Good. Thanks for doing this.
I got a white line down the middle here. What is that? You see it?
Yeah, let me see if I adjust my light, maybe.
Mm.
Oh, there it goes.
Clean the screen.
That's the way, man. That's the way. Cool. Well, welcome, man. This is for Jersey Jazz Magazine and for the Jazz Real Book podcast.
Okay, super.
Cool. Great. So,
Nice guitar
oh yeah,
collection you got there. Wow.
I know. I wish this was it, but it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit of a disease, man,
Looks like I see a 175 there, and then
Yeah,
next looks like a custom one next to it.
this one, the first one here is Parker jazz guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Very wide, huh?
yeah, it's pretty, hold on a second. It's all solid. It's pretty wild.
It's solid.
Yeah, completely.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I actually I can't decide if I like it. I own a music school, so and a music store, so things come in and out. And this one was like a former teacher of mine who just like stopped playing. And he's just
That's a solid body guitar.
total solid. Yeah,
It
everything
must be very heavy, yeah.
for an arch top, it's pretty heavy, but
Hmm.
it does sound pretty awesome. It's just you got to get used to the body style, It's
Yeah,
like
it's quite
it's a little
pretty cool though.
It is. It sounds good. I mean, 175 is just the one I generally go to, and then
Yeah, I have one right here. I don't know if you can see it. Well, anyway.
yeah. But I'm actually more of a bass player anyway. But I do play a good amount of guitar.
Cool.
All right, man. So yeah. So I guess let's start with the record. Stryker with strings goes to the movies.
Yeah.
Pretty cool concept. How did you tell me about how this came about?
Well, I was teaching at Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana, for about 11 years. I just retired from there uh, in last year. So I had been asked to be in a PBS special called Wes at 100 that was they did it in Bloomington at the studio there, and it was with big band and orchestra, arranged by Brent Walrab,
Mhm.
who is the big band and arranging instructor at Indiana University. So we collaborated on that. It actually did very well, won an Emmy, and it is going to go national, they say. So they'll probably be able to see that on PBS. Sometimes like you see, those on PBS, those the golden oldies. They have all the bands from playing all their hits. But anyways, hopefully, yeah, it'll get played. And we did all Wes's music, and it was no pressure at all for a guitar player, right, to
Yeah,
have to
right.
step in and play. And I made sure I didn't use I memorized everything so that I wouldn't be sitting there reading the music. And it came out nice. There was a live studio audience, about 150 people, and all these pictures of Wes, giant pictures everywhere, and it was like no pressure. But anyway, it came out good. And I said to Brent after that, because the writing was so great on it, we should do a project together. And he said definitely. And he had some backing, from the Indianapolis Entertainment Foundation for projects he's done in the past, and they were interested. And so we had started kicking around ideas, and I said, what about doing movie themes? And he said, that's my two favorite things, movies and music. So
Mm.
that's how we got it going. And of course, there's been a lot of jazz goes to the movies records, and it's not anything new, but I thought this was kind of cool in the way that we did it, because you have the guitar in front playing the melodies for one thing. And also, we kind of tried to approach it like a jazz quartet, my jazz quartet, in the middle of all these horns and strings. you know, so we had it open the themes would open up into jazz where we could improvise over these themes, and so it was a real fun thing to do.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it came out great. Was it recorded like were the strings in the studio with you, or was you overdubbed some of your
We
parts?
recorded the first session. We had 11 musicians. It was an interesting, or it wasn't a big band. It was really low brass. So there was 5 trombones
Hmm.
and saxophone, alto saxophone, and 2 trumpets, and Sarah Caswell on violin, and then the rhythm section. So that was the first session. And then a couple weeks later, we brought in the from the Indianapolis Symphony about 18 strings and recorded their parts over it. And it was yeah, it was really a treat to get to to do this.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any recordings with that expansive of like orchestration? Was
No, no,
anything?
the closest I would say I came was a record I did a few years ago, right at the in the pandemic. I did a thing, something called As We Are,
Mhm.
and it was my group with Pat Atucci and Brian Blade and Julian Shore on piano, and four string quartet.
Right.
Julian arranged that, and Sarah Caswell kind of led the string quartet. She's a friend of mine, and she's also the concert master and soloist on the new record, this
Mm.
Stryker with Strings.
Cool. Yeah, Sarah was actually a guest on the program not too long ago. Very
Oh
cool.
yeah, so yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and then in terms of like the movie themes, the selections, was that your choice?
Well, we Brett and I we both love movies, and so we started making lists, and we had to narrow it down, but yeah, these were it was a combination of we totally collaborated on that. But these are all like I really like the James Bond theme. I wanted to do that. Cinema Paradiso. That's my wife and I's one of our favorite movies. In Your Eyes was something Brett came up with. That was a cool idea to do something a little from a somewhat more recent movie. And Taxi Driver's iconic. That's classic. And these are some of my favorite movies. Taxi Driver, Deer Hunter, from Cavatina. Had to throw in Shaft, because
Yeah, that one's cool.
wanted something where it's always a challenge to try to figure out when I do something like this, how can I do a tune that we can go into straight ahead, like kind of a fast burn,
Right, right.
and so that I was able to figure out a way to do that on Shaft. And I would make like rough demos of how I could see the rhythm section opening up these tunes, and I would give that to Brent, and then he just took it and ran with it. And man, he just did such a great job. He's really so great of an arranger. Couple tunes from Ellington's score for Anatomy of a Murder.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
just a classic. And then Moon Glow, that was one of the backers, favorite, his parents' favorite song. So we included that from a movie called Picnic. Still have to watch that one. I've watched all the other ones. Dreamsville is a great Mancini tune. It's originally from the TV show Peter Gunn,
Hmm.
but Brent is such a movie buff. He knew that they had Blake Edwards had made a movie because of the success of the TV show, and it was called Gun,
Yeah.
and so it snuck in there as a movie theme.
Right.
And Edelweiss, of course, from The Sound of Music was another request from one of our backers, and I just did that quartet.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely spans the range of generations of film for sure. I guess In Your Eyes probably being the most contemporary. What was that? Say Anything, right? John.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really cool. And like you said, like Moonglow, I had no idea it was from a movie. It's just one of those standards we kind of know, right?
We know, and it's cool. It's fun to do. It's actually from like the 1939 originally, and then the movie came out in the 50s, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the Peter Gunn and Gunn thing because I just finished a book on Ray Brown, and he played on the Gunn. I think I know he played on the show and I think also the film. So I was kind of familiar with.
Yeah, yeah, he was on everything. I don't know if you heard about John Clayton losing his house out in his house burnt down.
Oh, geez. You know, it's funny because
And
not.
he had Ray Brown's bass, so that's gone
Oh,
as is everything of John's.
what a
So
nightmare.
it's
Yeah,
amazing. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
that makes sense
Unbelievable.
because I've been trying to reach out to him for actually a request for the magazine, and he hadn't gotten back to me. But now I know. Now I know why. But he was really instrumental in helping me with the book initially.
I'll bet because he's the guy that knows about Ray probably more than anybody.
Yeah.
And I just saw him at the Jazz Congress at Jazz at Lincoln Center. We did a celebration of Russell Malone,
Sure.
and I was talking to him, for quite a while about Russell and hanging out with him a little bit. And I don't think he had realized the fate of his house at that point. And unfortunately, his daughter and her family also lost their house that lived a few blocks away. So
Oh, what a nightmare, man.
yeah, it's just incredible. You never know. But,
No, totally not. All right. Well, get back to the music.
right.
More positive.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so this, I also like in preparation for this, I went back and listened to your Groove Street record, which I guess was the record right before this.
yeah,
So like very different, conceptually from the string record, obviously.
you're
Uh,
right.
so even though that was like last year's release, can you talk just a little bit about that? Because I think it's a great record. I really enjoy it.
Thanks so much. Well, that's with my working trio, which is Jared Gold on organ and McClenny Hunter on drums. We've been together, wow, almost 15, 20 years now. And I came up working with my first big gig was with brother Jack McDuff, the organist, when I was from 1984 to 85. I was on the road with him, and I got to play with Jimmy Smith and Lonnie Smith and all the greats. And but after doing that, I kind of stopped playing with organ for a while, and just I had a group with Steve Slagle with just quartet,
Sure.
sax, guitar, bass, drums, and I was recording for Steeplechase, and he let me do whatever I wanted. I for about 20 years, I made one record a year for them, and so I did a couple organ records. I did one with Larry Goldings, and I did one with Joey DiFrancesco. So I started putting playing with organ again a little bit there. But then there was a club in West Orange called Cecil's,
Yeah,
and
sure.
they had an organ in there. And I would go down on the jam session night on Monday nights that Bruce Williams was running, and he had a young organ player named Jared Gold, and uh, he just knocked me out as soon as I heard him. He had his own thing going, harmonically, and I didn't really want to do the old school organ thing anymore because I
Mhm.
felt like I'd done it with the best. But with Jared, we were able just to play music, and so yeah, I started playing, and I've kind of had my main group the last several years has been with organ, and Bob I've known. He's been a friend of mine for many years, and huge fan of his. And so when we did a few tours where I had Bob as a special guest.
Mhm.
So when I got ready to do that record, Groove Street, I just called Bob and said, would you be into doing a record with us? And he said sure. So we just went in and did it in a few hours, and wrote some music for it. And I think Bob brought in a couple tunes, and Jared brought in a tune, and yeah, I'm happy with how that came out. But it's true, yeah. I mean, you know, it's fun to get to do a project like this thing with strings, with the orchestra. It is so completely different than the working with an organ quartet for sure. Although my playing is kind of, my voice is just the way I play, and so hopefully that comes through on both
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. I mean, you have a very distinct sound and approach, and yeah, I mean, it definitely it's you, but you with in a different context, which is
Right.
cool.
And that's really fun to do, to get to do that. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, definitely. So, you have an upcoming performance, I think. Is it Birdland you're playing?
Yeah, we're playing at Birdland the 24th through the 26th, and that will be with the organ trio I mentioned, McClenty and Jarrett, as well as a tenor player named Troy Roberts, who's a dynamite player.
Okay.
And he's playing Friday and Saturday, and then a buddy of mine from Indianapolis, Rob Dixon, will be there on Sunday, tenor player. And we're going to be playing stuff from Groove Street, as well as we're going to do some of this, some of these movie themes, but obviously without 30 pieces.
Yeah. Do you ever
condensed, condensed.
Yeah. Do you ever foresee like an opportunity where you can actually play all the strings?
Yeah, we actually have we're doing a big concert May 3rd in at Indiana University, their jazz celebration concert. They do a big concert at the end of the year, and we're gonna we're gonna do this music. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have uh try to do it, with slideshow, of some of the movie stuff, and I can't wait to do it. The guy who wrote the liner notes, his name is David Brent Johnson,
Hmm.
is a radio DJ and writer out there in Bloomington, and really knowledgeable guy, and so he'll be emceeing it, and so there is that one opportunity. But other than that, it takes a lot to organize that for sure. But I'm glad we got at least this one concert coming up.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
But you never know. I mean, it could, if there was, if the opportunity arose, we could obviously get, contract string players from around here and do something if if the right opportunity came about.
Very good. Cool. So if I can go back, way back, I see you're wearing the Omaha shirt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Can you talk about that's where you grew up, right? Omaha?
right. I'm from Omaha. Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk about your upbringing and how do you discover, because Omaha, when I think of Omaha, I don't think of it as a hotbed of musical activity, but I could be wrong. Um, you tell me.
Well, any town you go to in the country, anywhere, you're always going to have a scene of jazz guys, and probably some older guys that can play jazz. Um, maybe nobody ever heard of them, but they're certainly great players, and that was the case in Omaha. I started playing, quite young, and so I was playing in bands by the time I was in my early teens,
Right.
and actually working a lot. Our father was a booking agent, so we had a lot of gigs, and um, I think I was into rock, and then I got into more like Santana and the Allman Brothers and blues based stuff, and where you started to play solos that weren't, learning them from the record. You were actually like kind of improvising a little bit. And so I can thank Santana and
Mhm.
the Allman Brothers for that. But then I remember going to a jam session at the Union, and they were playing. It's a jazz jam, and I said, "Well, I can do that." So I just went down there with my Telecaster. I had long hair, and
Yeah.
they were playing "Song for My Father." I remember, and I got up and started ripping my rock licks over it. And one of the guys said, "Hey, man, this is jazz. You can't be playing all that rock shit." So I went to the next day. I went down to the record store, Homer's Records, and said, "Where's the jazz section?" And somehow I walked out of there with Coltrane's My Favorite Things and George Benson, Beyond the Blue Horizon, CTI.
All right. Yeah.
So I started at the top. I've been working my way through that, but those are still two of my favorite records. And I just kind of got the bug and went to a Jamie Ebersol camp for a couple summers down in Wichita, Kansas. Drove down there, and my combo teacher the last year was Joe Henderson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was amazing, and so I really got the bug, and then we started getting gigs where we would play at the top of the Hilton, and we had to play two sets of standards and then two sets of top 40. So we all started learning how to play standards and went to other jam sessions, and local sax player took me under his wing, and so that's kind of how I got into playing jazz, and I loved it. And then I moved out to LA for a couple of years around 1978, and then came to New York, and been at it ever since.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, one of the names that you've worked with, Stanley Turrentine. Could you discuss your time with him?
Yeah. So when I was with McDuff, we had a steady 3-night-a-week gig at a place called Dude's Lounge up in Harlem. It was 148th and St. Nick. It was also called later St. Nick's Pub.
Mm-hmm.
But we would play there every week if we weren't on the road. And a lot of guys would come through there. You know, George Benson came in, and Lou Donaldson, Lonnie Smith, Jimmy Smith, everybody, you name it, they would come through, and Turrentine as well. So that's where I first met Stanley. And then after I left Jack after a couple of years, I got called to sub on Stanley's band, and then he ended up liking the way I played and hired me. And so I was with Stanley for 10 years, playing all over the world and recording with him. And that was just an amazing opportunity. I was so grateful for that to this day. And, you know, really getting to play night after night with somebody like that, you know, one of the legends of the music, who you can tell in 2 notes.
Yeah, sure.
Really, and having to follow his solos, which were so in the pocket, really made you had to rise to the occasion, or you wouldn't gonna last.
Definitely. So like when you're working with a guy like Jack McDuff and Stanley, like how much as band leaders, like how much direction did they give you, or did they kind of just leave you to your
Well, with Jack, he had a book of arrangements for sax and guitar, and they were pretty slick, you know. If you listen to any of those old records with George, I mean, for instance, you know, Jack had previously had Grant Green, George Benson, Pat Martino, so it was a hot seat for a guitar player, you can imagine.
Yeah, no doubt.
But he had cool arrangements. You can listen to those old records with Jack and George Benson, and you know, there was real worked out harmonies with the sax. And so yeah, he had a book, and but he also would play standards and blues and stuff. And then with Stanley, same thing. He had his hits he would play, you know, Sugar and Don't Mess with Mr. T and Pieces of Dreams and certain standards he would like to play. But as far as the direction, you know, it was different with Jack. You know, it was a different. He wasn't afraid to like yell at you and stuff, and it was trial by fire kind of. But it was all for the music, and you know, if he yelled at you, he didn't hold. You know, he got over it quickly. And you just had to perform, and you had to play with soul feeling and be able to like deal. Otherwise, it was, you know, it wouldn't work. And then with Stanley, not a lot of direction. No, just if you got the gig, you got it because we're dealing with the music. And when by the time, you know, I got to play with Stanley, I knew his book, and I knew all the. I mean, one of the first records I had was Sugar with, you know, the CTI and George Benson and all that. So I had been shedding that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned Benson a few times. Benson was actually a guest as well, which was a trip. I had Benson, yeah, on this program, which was not easy. just getting him on the phone was a trip. But
could he do Zoom?
No. He couldn't even get like I said, the phone call I had to go through. I don't know if it was his wife or his manager or what, but yeah, it was pretty funny because we were talking and he was enjoying it, I could tell. And then like 15, I thought I had time with him, and then 15 minutes in, like she interrupted and said, "Oh, he's got to go now." Like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like he kind of wanted to stay, I could tell, but he's a busy guy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in terms of guitar players, specifically, in addition to Benson, who are some of the other ones that like really influenced you?
Well, just like every guitar player, I mean, we all grew up listening to Wes Montgomery, George Benson, Pat Martino, Joe Pass, Jim Hall, you name it. All of them. Kenny Burrell. You know, once I got the jazz bug, man, I just would go to the record store and just pick up records, and you know, that's really how I learned how to play, was listening to the records and you know, copping, listen to Wes's solo on No Blues, you know, get up in the morning, put that on, and when it got to the end of his solo, go back and put on the turntable and start it over and just listen to, you know, hopefully some of that stuff starts to sink into your playing. Same with Grant Green. I loved him, and Pat Martino, you know, all these guys.
Yeah, so the standard guys mostly.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure. There was a guy in Omaha named Billy Rogers that most people never heard of, but he was a phenomenal guitar player that was somewhat of a mentor to me. He passed away really early though from drug overdose, but he was quite good, and he was out in L.A. I was hanging out with him when I moved out there.
cool. Great. Now, also, like in terms of teaching, where I know you teach at university. Where are you now? You're at Rutgers? I can't
I
remember.
teach at Rutgers.
Okay.
I teach at Montclair State, and I teach at. I just started this year at William Paterson. So, yeah, of course, I was playing for years, and then I mentioned earlier that I had gone to a Jamie Eberswald workshop,
Hmm.
and later on, Jamie kind of followed my career and would have me come out and play with my group sometimes. And he asked me eventually, would I want to come and teach at the workshop? So I said, sure. And so I kind of started getting, I was teaching at Montclair State, I think, and they knew me from, being around Jersey,
Sure.
and then but then I met a lot of the people that were running the jazz programs through the Abersol workshop. He had a lot of those instructors, and that's kind of how I met. Well, I had met David Baker, the great educator, when I was a teenager at those workshops, and so when I started teaching at the Abersol workshops later, um, he also was a very supportive guy, and when he asked me to come and would I be interested in teaching at Indiana University, and first I thought that was crazy. You want me to fly all the way out there to, but I went and checked it out, and I really enjoyed it, and did it for about 11 years. So, but mainly I teach kind of the way I learned. I try to get everybody to listen to the greats, and we work on that and transcribe and listen to those players, and then try to add that to their playing. Uh, how to get a good feel, and play sound like you're playing jazz.
Right. Right. Yeah. Very, yeah. Have you seen so I teach over at Monmouth University. I don't know if you know Monmouth, but
Uh-huh.
down by the shore. Um, and have you seen like a shift in the learning styles of students kind of over the years, like how did they, just connect?
um well, you're always going to have different levels of seriousness about what they want to do.
Right.
You're and you'll get some that are really want to learn how to play this music and put the time in, and the other ones that not so much. So uh just like anything, it's always kind of been that way, and I've been lucky to have some really great students come through that you know are happy to try to learn how to play through tunes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Charlie Apicella, did he studied with you, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on here. I played with him a little bit.
Oh, great. Yeah, just saw him the other day at the Jazz Congress thing that I was telling you about, that Russell was at. I mean, the Russell celebration.
Mhm.
I saw him hanging out there.
Yeah, he's doing a thing. Cool, man. So what other what do you have in the future? Any future projects you want to let people know about?
This really just this one, and this just came out, the Stryker with strings thing. So I'm trying to get the word out. I appreciate you, reaching out and to talk about it. And I'll be, playing some of these tunes with my regular group, like I said, at Birdland, January 24th through 26th, and on my website, davestryker.com, you can find all my gigs coming up, and I have quite a nice bit of stuff coming up. One thing I'm looking forward to is in end of February, I'm playing with the WDR Big Band from Cologne, Germany. They're coming over here,
Oh wow.
led by Bob Mincer, and we're going to play at in outside of Chicago at Elmhurst, the Elmhurst Jazz Festival, like the February 21, 22, 23. And the first night is with the Yellow Jackets. So
Oh
as soon
cool.
as, as soon as I hang up, I got to start shedding some of this music. They just sent it to me today. Then we do 2 nights at Birdland, the 25th and 26th, and then finish up at in Pittsburgh at the Manchester Craftsman's Guild on the 28th and the 1st of March. And that'll be fun. That's a fantastic big band that's full time. I don't know if you know about that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, they're paid by the state, and
Been going on for a while now. Like,
yes, they have, and one of the best. Yeah, so that'll be fun.
excellent, man. Well, very cool. I would definitely recommend to all my listeners, check out all Dave's records, but Stryker with Strings in particular goes to the movies. Stryker with Strings goes to the movies.
Yeah.
It's quite phenomenal, man. And I want to thank you once again for coming on.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, man.
All right, maybe we'll play together sometime.
I hope so, man. We're due to.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time. I think maybe just once or twice, but I used to, as a bass player, I used to go to Cecil's, but there wasn't much, they had the organ there.
Right. Unless you were doing a gig with somebody, yeah.
Unless I was doing a gig, but trumpets was the place I was at all the time when I was
living. Yeah, I played there quite a bit. I missed that place too.
Yeah, there's still places, but and I'm over here in central, like I play a lot in the Asbury Red Bank.
That's okay. Well, we still have up here, we still have Shanghai Jazz and a new place called Brush Culture in Teaneck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's run. Yeah. So those Rodney Green that's his club. And yeah, it's straight ahead. Keep playing, right? Try to put some positivity out into the world with music.
Oh yeah, man. It's a joy, All right, cool.
All right, Jay.
Go, man. Good luck with everything.
Take care, bud.
All right. Take care.